What is going on, everyone? I know you're ready to get right into the Walter White 3 build log, so without further ado, I present the finale and the finished product. What's up, everyone? Welcome to part 2 of the Walter White 3 build log. This was actually supposed to be the end of part 2, but as you'll see here shortly, I have a problem with just a very small leak somewhere in the reservoir. I'm pretty sure it's coming from up top. You can see where it's already stained. The white, just kind of like top here of the reservoir. I'm gonna try to clean that off, but there's a leak somewhere behind here. I'm not sure if it's the little cap that I have on the opposite side opening over here, or if I'm missing an O-ring up top or what. So we're gonna have to drain this entire loop and find the source of the leak. It's somewhere back there. I'm not exactly sure if it's coming from the opening or if it's coming from the seal. We'll figure that out right now. So here's something you might find interesting. I have on one of the ports in the bottom of the reservoir just a small little tube here that runs to a valve that acts as my drain valve. So all I need to do, as long as I have an opening up top, which will allow air to flow down and kind of push the fluid into this bottle here, is just turn the dial. You can see fluid flows. There we go. We can start draining. Okay, so what I've done here, I've taken apart the radiator reservoir combo, took it out of the loop. So the only thing left in the loop right now is just this one bend from the GPU to the CPU block. And I actually disassembled the reservoir blocks on both the top and bottom and swapped out the O-ring configuration. So the way that Primochill has you do it, they have you put 2 O-rings inside these little white basically fasteners here, and those 2 O-rings are supposed to prevent fluid from leaking out the bottom of this acrylic and out through the gaps. And I believe that's why we were getting liquid buildup here, because liquid was somehow getting through those O-rings, passing between those O-rings and the acrylic cylinder itself. I think the way I have it set up now, the fluid won't be able to get through. I mean, that's the point after all. You don't want leaks in the system. So we're gonna try this configuration out, see if it works. I don't think this is mandated by Primochill, but it wasn't working the way that it was set up originally. So we're gonna try something different and see if it holds up. Alright, so I want to point out that I removed the rear 120 rad. A few of you pointed out that it was covering up this dim here on the far left, so I just took it out altogether. It will make the run simpler as well, so we'll only need 4 stents of tubing instead of, what would it be, 6, which is nice. It makes things easier in a sense. We don't have to worry about piping moving over here, but because we're gonna have more empty space, I want to do something kind of crazy here. I want to do like a helix twist or something, or have one go up and down and the other one do the opposite. I don't know, something crazy to kind of fill up this gap. So we already have this one, and this leads up to the top of the reservoir. We have the tube in the back that I showed you earlier that runs up into the radiator, so the fluid's got to come, from up here to the CPU. I want it to feed the CPU first. So this tube is gonna, do something crazy right when it gets to this point. Either loop around, or I don't know, just something weird, something that looks cool, that just like is the signature move for this build. Okay, and while the PC is priming, I just have the pump turned on. Obviously, the rest of the computer is not on because the power supply is not installed yet. We're going to do that. We're going to install the Seasonic Focus 850 watt FX fully modular power supply. If you aren't familiar with Seasonic specifically, they actually manufacture quite a few power supplies that are rebranded by other companies, including Corsair, Cooler Master, EVGA. Seasonic is one of the best out there. Check this out. Seasonic also includes their own zip ties that are branded by them, which looks super cool. They also include zip ties just for regular cable management if you don't want to look super fancy with these here. And you also get your 4 standard PSU screws as well as a cool Focus branded sticker. Now, one of the huge selling points of this particular unit from Seasonic is the fact that it is actually super compact. So it's a full-size ATX PSU, no doubt, but it's not very lengthy, meaning it won't take up a lot of space in your basement, which is good if you have hard drive trays or if you have something like a pump in Walter White 3's case. So we can actually put this in even the most compact case and still have plenty of room for cables to be stored and for hard drives and whatnot. So I really like the fact that it's super compact, and it's also very efficient too at 80 plus gold. And another important attribute worth mentioning, this is a fully modular power supply, so we only have to install what cables we do need for our particular build. The cables themselves included in the box are also black sleeved, and the cables are black as well, so no ugly ketchup and mustard combos. So our computer's been priming for about 30 minutes or so. I'm confident enough in my own abilities to bend and connect tubing and whatnot that I'm going to call this good enough. I don't see any leaks, and I don't think it's going to leak anytime soon, given the way it is set up now. But if this is your first time building something similar to this, I do recommend you just powering the pump like I've done here. Don't power anything else in the system because if something does leak, you'll damage those components. So just keep the pump on for about 24 hours or so. Come back the next day. If you still don't have any leaks, then you should be good to go for, quite a while. But it's been 30 minutes. I'm confident enough. I'm going to go ahead and install the power supply. So we're going to turn this off and actually turn the entire computer on now. Wow, this is the biggest buzzkill ever. This crappy tempered glass sticker leaves all this residue on the glass itself when you pull it off.
So this build was extremely complicated, frustrating, not only technically, but just because I had a few issues that were unexpected that really shouldn't have happened in the first place that made this build take much longer than it should have. I would have been done by day 3 if it wasn't for the issues that I had. One of which you saw in the previous footage in this video, but you didn't see something else. I didn't film this because I was just so angry that it happened and I was just worried about fixing it as quickly as I could. And it's difficult for me to say this because Primo Chill is a major sponsor of this video series, so they sent $1,000 worth of custom loop gear here. They really hooked us up. But I cannot hide the fact that the D5 pump they sent was dead on arrival. I can confirm that because not only did I swap that pump with another D5 pump, and that one worked perfectly fine, but also because I swapped the power supplies too to make sure it wasn't just a power supply incompatibility, something weird like that. I narrowed down all the variables. I made sure this thing was dead, and it just kept clicking. Like there was a relay or something clicking in there, but it actually wasn't powering on, so no fluid was being churned in the loop. That's an issue because you obviously need fluid to move to take that heat away from your CPU and GPU heat sources. So I had to drain this build not once but twice unexpectedly because of 2 issues that really shouldn't have happened. The first being that the pump died, the second being that the reservoir itself was leaking, especially from the top. It did leak from the bottom slightly as well, and I'm not sure if this was just because the O-rings weren't positioned correctly or if I didn't tighten the seals all the way. I torqued those things. Those things were on there, but nonetheless, fluid still managed to find its way out of the reservoir and into just the open space in the case. That's not good at all. You don't want to leak, period, because that could damage other components in your PC. And another thing, Primo Chill, I think that the flowchart you include on your website along with the installation pictures are not doing this thing justice. I think that you are confusing the consumer by showing arbitrary pictures and labeling things but not showing which orientation from which you're looking at the reservoir. Also, you mislabeled something here. This should say, I think, the opposite because you're saying that both ports are the intake. That doesn't make any sense at all. That confused me. I was kind of questioning whether or not I even had the intake port on the right side or the outtake port on the right side. So I think that needs to be a bit more clear. That can confuse consumers. I was worried about that. But Everything else that I have to say about Primo Chill is positive. So I had a DOA pump. I don't really know if you can just blame Primo Chill specifically for that because they don't manufacture, they don't build the pumps, they just rebrand the pumps. So it was kind of luck of the draw. It just happened to be that I got a dead pump, and that's kind of expected, I guess, at this point on the channel. But I would like to say I'm a huge fan of the Primo Chill revolver fittings. I think those are the best fittings, period. Hands down, they're well designed, they're easy to use, they look awesome. You can get them in whatever color you want practically. Just a single O-ring between the fitting cap and the fitting itself, the G-quarter fitting that'll connect to whatever else you want to integrate into your loop. So huge thumbs up for me in that respect. I recommend Primo Chill fittings over any other fittings I've used to date. The other thing I want to mention, the reservoir pump combo looks really cool. I think that Primo Chill's done a great job kind of incorporating the two into a single unit. Usually pumps are combined with some huge block followed by the reservoir on top, and you just see a bunch of that block that you don't, it's unappealing. It doesn't look very good. But in this case, you see pretty much all the fluid and that's it. You wouldn't even know there's a pump attached. You would think it was a separate unit somewhere else in the loop. So I think they've done a great job there aesthetically as well as functionally. The fluid doesn't have a problem moving through the loop as is. Apart from that though, you already know how the i9's doing. It's running really hot. Despite having a custom loop in here, the CPU is still running at around 80-85 degrees Celsius under load, and that's only at a 4.2 gigahertz overclock and a V-core of 1.1. So yeah, I mean, you boost that to 4.6 and 1.25 and the thing probably hits 95-96 degrees Celsius and starts thermal throttling. So this is pretty much the barrier here. Getting a 10-core CPU to 4.2 gigahertz in itself is impressive, but 4.6 is really pushing it. Most AIOs can't handle it, and even a custom loop like this with a single 360mm rad is barely enough, you could say. If it's throttling, it's not enough, period. The pump is just not able to keep up with the amount of heat being dumped by that CPU. Now, many of you have asked what on earth I do with these PCs once I put them together. Like, where do they go? Into the ether? They just disappear? Do I use them personally for a long time? Usually a bit of both. Obviously the latter followed by the former, so I'll use this PC for maybe a week or two, and then I'll tear it down. That's about how long it'll last, maybe 2 weeks, and then I'll recycle these parts. Look, it's no simple task for any company, big or small, to send $1,000 worth of components, especially custom loop gear like this, to a tech reviewer. So I'm going to take advantage of these parts as much as I can before something new is released, and then we'll put together a new build with newer Primo Chill parts. But for now, this stuff is excellent. I recommend it all. You can find it all linked in the video description, by the way, along with the Phanteks CPU and graphics card blocks. Those are also beautiful. That's what you're seeing in there. Those are lit up themselves. They have LED strips, RGB integration, all built into those blocks, which is really nice. For the next PC build on the channel, we're going to stick with AMD Ryzen. I'm going to try to put something together for under $1,000. It should be a solid 1080p and 1440p gamer, along with a decent video, content creation, editor, all that stuff. Pretty much an all-around excellent PC, especially for the price. So we're going to try to do one that's, I wouldn't call it a budget PC, but an all-around solid PC for under $1,000. Stay tuned for that on the channel. Also an excellent case coming from Fractal Design. I don't know why it got hot randomly. CPU's at like 74 degrees. That's normal for an i9. That's pretty normal. But anyway, with that, if you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. For the opposite, click the subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next video. We got a monitor from BenQ I'm going to review next. This is Science Studio. Thanks for building with us.